Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to the Heroic Review, where we, the cast of Heroic Tale of Heroic Heroes, review pony episodes, fanfiction, and other ponylicious things. I am DeftFunk. I guess I'm moderating this discussion. Hello, why not? With me is ABagofVicodin.
Hi.
Also, Greg.
Hello, everyone. It's been a while.
And Illya Leonov.
How you doing out there?
And Reverb Brony.
Hello.
And today we're reviewing the episode Rarity Investigates, and we're doing this super quick because people got places to go. All right, everybody, what do you think of the episode?
It was really good. 10 out of 10.
Greg, you're next. What about you?
No such thing as too much film noir. I approve.
Hey, Reverb, what about you?
I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. I loved Rarity's character in this, but I thought it felt like a kind of not as good version of Mystery on the Express thing, the one where Pinkie Pie is basically doing the exact same thing Rarity is doing here. But it was still fun, and Rainbow Dash drove me crazy.
It's a combination of Mystery on the Friendship Express and Wonderbolt Academy.
That is true. Mystery on the Friendship Express got a fairly mixed review. I always thought it was a pretty great episode. I don't know other people, but this one I also thought was pretty great. As for how it compares, I don't know. It was just a great episode in my opinion. Illya Leonov, what did you think of this episode?
Well, I sort of feel like Reverb, only the reverse. I thought it was a sort of a better version of Mystery on the Friendship Express.
Oh, well, all right. So, how do we feel about Windrider in this episode? The guy who, well, spoiler alert, he actually done it.
That's not a spoiler. It was obvious.
Yeah, it quite was. It was kind of like Scooby-Doo. I heard, like, for, like, the while in, like, the first season-ish of Scooby-Doo, the person who did it was always the first person they meet. And that's immediately what I thought when the first person Rainbow Dash met, the first strange person Rainbow Dash met, was Windrider. Didn't help that
Yes.
he didn't meet any other strangers.
Well, Windrider was also the only character that was introduced that wasn't introduced before. So this episode was not going to be based on the shock value of whether or not you thought Windrider did it. This episode, which is why they didn't put all of their stock into that. They put all of their stock into Rarity being funny and the noir theme and the music and everything. See, because this is one of the episodes that I think content creators should definitely look at, because this is an episode that has a very good idea of what it wants to do, which is why it puts less emphasis on the obvious things, such as making Windrider, like, evil, because everything else does that for her. Rarity, like, interviewing all these people, does that for the episode. So what do instead? They bring in an awesome film noir theme. They get this character interaction between Rainbow Dash and Rarity, which, despite Rainbow Dash being a complete joke in this episode, there's still interaction there and it's interesting. So, when it comes to people wanting to make, like, fanfics, animations, etc., I think that they should look at this episode and, like, take notes.
Very well said. Anyone else?
There's one question I have to raise about Windrider.
Go on.
How on earth did he manage to so convincingly convince that bakery owner that he was a mayor?
That's a good question.
Wait, what?
Well, yes, the bakery owner who sold the cake that Windrider used to distract the guards so he could slip the note with Rainbow Dash's hair into Spitfire's room.
It was a mayor.
She says a mayor bought the cake, and I am trying to figure out just how Windrider, who is, if I recall correctly, quite masculine looking, managed to so thoroughly portray himself as a mayor.
The magic of makeup.
He's just that cool.
I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities.
I think that's one of those you're not supposed to think about at moments, but I always find myself thinking about those.
Yeah,
that's
I
understandable.
mean, it really depends on how much you want to think about it, because there's a lot of things that we just had our spoiler alert to the readers. We just did our episode review of, what was the episode? I'm tired.
Crusaders of the Lost Mark.
Yeah, we just did that, and we had a conversation about, certain things that you really shouldn't be thinking about due to various reasons. And I think that this is one of those. It's like, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it does bring up the point of it kind of contrives the narrative a little bit, I guess, because if I were to say otherwise, it would kind of be selective of me. But I don't know. There's gender-changing potions. There's possible magic.
When in doubt, magic, basically.
Yeah. I mean, they should mention it, obviously, if something's being used. If something is, like, making this in some way, the scene that explained it just probably got cut.
Well, all right. Let's move on to what? Go on, Reverb.
Sorry, I was going to say, am I the only one who... I probably am. Who thought for a little bit that it could have actually possibly been Spitfire's mother who was behind this because she wanted to see more of her daughter?
Well, I think, yeah, it's possible. Because...
When they said that it was a mayor who went in, I was like, oh, it was a mayor. And never really clicked with me to think, oh, he dressed up as a mayor. I thought, oh, maybe it was Spitfire's mother.
wasn't Spitfire kind of too? Or Spitfire's mother? Kind of cheap.
I don't recall.
I don't think she was, no.
Didn't seem that way to me.
Actually, it wouldn't make much sense what I just said because Spitfire's mum was there rather than at home. So
Yeah, I was about
never
to say.
mind. I'm an idiot. And it's 4 a.m. and that's my excuse. I'm sticking to it.
That'll do.
That's cool.
Well, all right, we're moving on. All right, what do we all think about Rainbow Dash? Yeah, I'm a ABagofVicodin. I know how you feel about Rainbow Dash.
Terrible character. Terrible in this episode. But, she... okay.
That'll do.
Mini rant incoming.
Yeah, very well. Go on, mini rant.
Okay, I don't understand why people consider her best pony. I literally don't. Her loyalty has not been clarified until Hurricane Fluttershy, except for the pilot, and we all agree that the pilot was not very well written. The only real reason that people have that she's best pony is because she's awesome, and that's retarded. That's the stupidest thing that I've ever heard. So, Rainbow Dash has never shown herself to be as awesome as she claims to be. A. B. She is just a... And she has never been likable until Hurricane Fluttershy, when she actually, was not a to Fluttershy. And then, when they brought back her being a in seasons 4 and 5, people were, loving it. They were like, oh my god, her season 1 characterization is back. And I'm sitting here we want that? And then,
I kind of agree with you. I mean, she had some growth, and now she's just an idiot again. That's the biggest thing about it is... I understand, though, why she was like that in this episode, though, because she's, panicking. She's risking losing her dream, but...
Yeah, the clock was ticking in this episode, to say the least. So I completely understand the lack of patience. And of course, this is with Rarity, who, if you don't... she spaces out kind of like Twilight at times, where if you don't keep her on the straight path, she might just take twice the amount of time that she did to find out the culprit. That I understand. But just Rainbow Dash as a character, I've never understood why people liked her. I've never understood how she could be best pony for anyone. And in this episode, particularly, she doesn't help her case.
Well, I had a couple of things to say about both her and the Wonderbolts in general. First of all, she seems to be the only pony that can do this sonic rainbow. She sacrificed herself in this thing they were having in Cloudsdale, where she saved the Wonderbolts' lives. She's done everything that she could possibly do to become a Wonderbolt. And yet, what, is it some sort of loyalty thing? I mean, I forget, what was the reason she was drummed out of the Wonderbolts? I've forgotten now. But if somebody as sleazy as Wind Rider, who could be a Wonderbolt, then why isn't Rainbow Dash one by now? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, she is the Wonderbolt trainee. Right, she hasn't made it to full Wonderbolt yet.
Yeah, for the same reason that army people aren't immediately thrown on the battlefield after a few months. Seasons 1 through 4, I believe it was, were all within the span of a year. That was confirmed. So the timeline for Rainbow Dash becoming a Wonderbolt, especially after she became a Wonderbolt 2 seasons ago, is she hasn't been a Wonderbolt for that long, I guess is my point. And she hasn't been a trainee for that long. So, I mean, you could lament about the timeline, but that's just how the timeline is. The episodes are very close to each other. We just had 2 episodes that were one day after the other, or coinciding with Brotherhood Social and Rarity Manhattan episode, whatever, with Coco Pamel. But so, yeah, it's just, I mean, she's capable of doing all of this stuff, and she is a prodigy. I get that. But you can't just be a prodigy and expect to have everything thrown at you. The reason that a lot of prodigies fail is that they just think that their skills is what pays the bills. And you got to have... It's the same reason why when Rarity started her I mean, why, when I brought up Rarity in the Rarity Canterlot Boutique episode, I can't remember these titles. I'm so garbage.
Oh.
There's more to everything. And, I mean, Rainbow Dash might be able to be the only one to do the Sonic Rain Boom, but if she didn't get that Wonderbolt Academy training, she'd still be or more of a...
Oh my.
Or whatever. I don't know what her character is anymore.
It actually worked well that you ended on that, because I was going to go all the way back to when you said you don't understand why people love her and why people were so drawn to her. The thing is, she's the cool one. She's full of charisma, and as much as it probably doesn't make much sense, people love that and are drawn to it. It's like, that's the cool person at school. Even if they are sort of annoying, people still wanted to be their friend, so they're the most popular one, so that's why she's the most popular character, and she's the easy one for people to get into watching the show. It's like, she's the most accessible character because she's the least girly, I suppose is what I'm saying, and people were still very drawn to that. And yeah, she drove me nuts in this episode as well. Her sort of constant dancing and cheering herself on and stuff like that. I understand when she used to do that in season 1 and stuff, because in that area, she was the fastest, she is the best. She did have the bragging rights. But now that she's up with the Wonderbolts, I know she has a lot of reasons to brag, but not in their presence, because she's still not as good as them. She may be faster, but she's not as talented, so she should be much more humble. And
well, she should, but that ego has always been a flaw of hers.
Yeah, she's not a tactful character. I guess when it comes to people liking her for being the type of character like that, I just thought of Diamond Tiara for some reason. Maybe it's because we just reviewed that episode, but Rainbow Dash is as blank to me and as characterless as Diamond Tiara was before this episode. Rainbow Dash is an egotistical person who I guess has talent in flying and Sonic Rain Boom and everything. But apart from that, apart from the Tanks for the Memories episode, which actually gave her emotion, she's blank. She's completely just boring. She has her ego and her flying, and that's it. And that always frustrated me, because I don't know how people could have this sort of affinity for a character that is this blank and this stupid. She's stupid. I don't like her.
Oh man! All the comments.
Hashtag
the comments
shots
are
fired.
real. Oh man!
I hate Rainbow Dash, I just hate her.
I know what you mean, though. In this episode, she drove me nuts as well. I don't think that as much applies to the rest of the ones she's in. She has moments, except in a lot of her other episodes, she does seem quite a bit better. The episode where they went to the Griffin place, she wasn't as bad there. And in a lot of the other episodes, she's not that bad. I feel, you're right, she wasn't written incredibly well in this one. But I feel this one is a little more isolated with just how much it just blows up that annoying part of her personality.
Well, here's the thing. It's they're writing her one of two ways. The writer is either the egotistical, non-tactful,
Oh my.
or they write her as the person pursuing loyalty and justice. Kind of like with Fluttershy. They write her as either completely standing up for herself or just shy again. And the only times that they write her well is when they condense and consolidate both of those and make Fluttershy passive-aggressive. Or they make Rainbow Dash, say one stupid thing and then realize she's being
Oh my.
and then shut up. There needs to be more of that. Kind of like how they have been doing Fluttershy just passive-aggressive the past 5 million episodes ever since putting her hoof down, minus the few Larson mistakes. They need to be doing that with Rainbow. They need to be consolidating her and her justiceness into a justice and make
Oh man!
she should have had this depth by now. She should have had this character moment and all this tactfulness and all of this not being a by now.
All right, I'm gonna cut
the
it all
editing
here.
is real.
That is enough Rainbow Dash. All the fanboys are going to have enough field day with this anyway. All right, so we're moving on to Rarity. How was Rarity in this episode? We're definitely called Rarity Investigates, all about Rarity. Who wants to say something?
Rarity was adorable.
She
was
saved
so sweet.
the episode.
She's the best detective I've ever seen in My Little Pony.
I like that they showed her very, very smart. I like that.
Yeah, the whole idea of attention to detail and inductive reasoning, which are Sherlock Holmes mantras, having Rarity show these is really interesting because you don't really think about it until it's in your face, and you're like, holy, that makes sense, which is what I like in an episode. I like when this show actually makes me go, holy, I never thought of that. And that's what happened in this one. I mean, when Rarity doesn't go all ADHD and be like, oh, hey, your curtains should probably be changed. Like, she actually uses her effort and her attention to detail to get done. And that's good. And that's cool.
One part of her character which did sort of arise a bit in this episode, which it makes me cringe. I really, really can't stand this part of her character. She's my favourite. She's my favourite of the main six, but there's one part of her character that came arise a couple of times, and that's when she flirts with guys and manipulates guys to get her own way.
Why does that bother people so much? I've heard that a lot on the message boards and everything else. Everyone was complaining about that. It just seems like a trope. It doesn't bother me.
It's a trope, but it's not a very nice trope, I suppose. But I guess.
I think it might bother some people because it hits close to home. Some people who've been in situations like that with people manipulating them.
Oh,
what are we talking about?
I wouldn't know from personal experience, but...
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. And especially for a show about teaching people the right way to do things and the right way to get what you want, especially if they show something like this and it works continuously, it's not exactly a great message.
To our little girls.
Oh,
To our little girls.
Rarity being manipulative?
Yeah. I mean, I know there's, like you guys are saying, maybe it's not that big a deal, but it irks me, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it was for a good cause. I mean, it wasn't because she wanted to get money out of them or anything.
Not this time, anyway.
Not on screen.
I read one complaint about that. It says, these guys, because she flirted and manipulated them into admitting that, they're going to lose their jobs. What the hell? They didn't do their jobs. They should lose their jobs.
Exactly.
That's my response to that argument. I mean, if you're guarding the palace and you let someone give you a cake and it distracts you, you done goofed.
Consequences will never be the same.
Could we argue that the narrative makes that a false choice?
What do you mean?
Like, because the way this was written, it has to be either take the cake or be found as a terrible guard by Rarity.
Yeah,
Or is that something that is not worthy of being brought up? Like, these are interesting questions.
To be honest, I don't really see why he could have got around the guards. He's supposed to be, this amazing flyer. Couldn't he just flown in through the window? Why do you have to go through the hallway?
Well, was there a window that could be flown in through?
We don't know if these sort of weird ornamental windows, even open from the inside or outside, right? They're very fancy windows, and those often open in strange ways if they open at all.
Yeah, and you don't want to shatter them. That would raise suspicion in all the wrong ways.
And make a hell of a lot of noise.
That too.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on whether the guards are still ridiculously high security ever since the myriad of things that have been happening.
I like to look at this sort of thing that Rarity did, sort of like Twilight. Twilight has great magical powers. And in Lesson 0, she used them poorly, with bad choices. But she doesn't do it all the time. Everyone slips up now and then. Rarity's the same way. She's got this power over man. Once in a while, maybe, she uses it a little, but not all the time.
No, that's fair. I mean, like I was saying,
it's always well-intentioned.
She's my favorite character. She still is my favorite character. So yeah, I love her as a character in spite of that.
Also have to bring up the question, was she lugging around that giant trunk full of costumes the entire time?
Well, duh.
Well, she could summon a couch. Why not summon a trunk?
Oh, true.
Some
It
of the
is
magic.
perfectly in character for her that she's got this crate of costumes on Huff at all times.
She probably could have also flirted with a guy to carry it for her.
It's nothing on what Pinky's got in her mane.
Spike, cough.
I find it interesting that they just slapped a Rarity and Rainbow Dash together. Yeah, it's not really anything to take notes of.
Yeah,
Not anything
I like
notable
that as
here.
well.
I think
But
it
it was
was
like-
DeftFunk.
It was better. It was better. They did it better here than they did in Dragon Quest Season 2.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it when they pair up the sort of not the typical paired up types. I'm sure there was a better way for me to say that.
We get you.
Well, there are definitely the more common pairs we see, and then there are the
Exactly.
less common ones. And Rarity and Rainbow Dash is not a particularly common one. They just don't have many
common interest.
chances to interact like this. And
You
to
can
see
tell
the two
they're
of
not-
them
Exactly.
as
you
the
can-
focus was very interesting.
Yeah, they're not shipped as much as the other pairings. That's how you can tell that they're not as common, is by how shippable they are with each other.
I suppose there's that.
True enough. All right, there is one thing I wanted to say, and that is I love mystery stories. And this one, well, as Vicodin pointed out earlier, it wasn't that much of a mystery, but still, it had the sort of feeling of it anyway. And I definitely love how Rarity's attention to detail came all full circle. Well, nitpicking about, fashion choices and all that. Came all full circle in part of her investigation and all that. Yeah, it was a pretty lovely episode overall. I rate it pretty highly. That's my opinion. Overall, yep.
Also, making the having the random pony playing the background music on the fire escape. I love that little gag there. Like,
It was
why is
really
there
good.
constant music? And it's just random pony with a trumpet on the fire escape there.
That was fun.
It was beautiful.
Well, all right.
Fun nod to the fourth wall.
I
I just had a thought. On that note, I thought a really good sort of transition. We've had another episode which has been rather similar to this in quite a few different ways. The Mystery and the Friendship Express. Should we compare the two of those and see which one's sort of better in which places?
I mean, if you wanna.
Well, do we have the time
Maybe
for
just
that?
briefly.
I mean,
Well, let's just hear your thoughts on it. Go ahead.
I was just thinking because in my little intro thing, I thought the Mystery and the Friendship Express had a few better elements to it, except I remember Illya saying he disagreed. But the one thing I liked about the Friendship Express more was I thought they were really quite adventurous with the different styles that they took, which I suppose Pinkie Pie lends herself to much more than this with Rarity's sort of start of it, and it was going to be very noir themed right from the beginning. But yeah, that was just my thought.
Well, I can give you a certain amount of that. I mean, Friendship Express one was quite good. It was more of a Pinky funny one, and this was more of a Rarity Noir one, which just sort of appealed to my aesthetics more. I don't think it might have been a better mystery or anything, just something I liked a little bit more.
Well,
That's fair.
the Pinky mystery was, I actually didn't guess what it was just because it was actually plausible that the villains were the ones that did it. But with this one, the mystery was completely obvious. I think the differences to note would be the lack of a noir theme in Mystery of the Friendship Express. So there's just a regular theme altogether. Pinky as a detective is reliant more on the character itself to pull that along. While Rarity used her character to pull this episode along, there was just more to it with the noir theme as well. So, you had Pinky just kind of, I don't know, I guess the best way to look at it would be, I would say that despite my love for Pinky, Mystery of the Friendship Express is kind of more insubstantial than this one. But again, there's been a lot of seasons in between these. And along with that, I don't know, Mystery and the Friendship Express just doesn't, the second watch through isn't really interesting. Whereas with this
Rarity
one,
Investigates.
yeah, with Rarity Investigates, the second watch through doesn't degrade as much, in my opinion, just because there's so much more in it.
If I may
That's
add on
certainly
to
fair.
that.
Go for it.
I feel like, keeping with the comparison of the two episodes, I feel like Mystery on the Friendship Express put a little more effort into the mystery, throwing in some false leads and red herrings and such, but at the same time kind of skimped out on an actual, narrative. The narrative is the mystery, but whereas I think Rarity Investigates put a little more effort into telling a good story with a lot more interesting atmosphere and character interactions that makes it a little more watchable even after you know the extremely obvious ending.
I know what you mean. And the stakes, essentially, the stakes were higher because if she loses, which obviously she wasn't going to, but, Rainbow Dash is out of the Wonderbolts, which is massive.
Are you familiar with the Columbo mysteries? Remember those, Peter Falk? A mystery. In those, you knew who the villain was immediately, but the fun part of the mystery was how it was uncovered toward the end. I think a mystery can still be effective even when you know who the villain is, just because you get to see the mechanics of how it unfolds. It was wonderful. I thought I enjoyed it very much.
The journey is always more fulfilling than the destination than getting to the destination, yeah, as they always say. To me, those two episodes don't really, seem similar at all. Well, for me, the highlight of Mystery on the Friendship Express for me was the character interactions. Pretty much Pinky with everyone else, and mostly Twilight, which I found pretty much hilarious and relatable, because, I don't know, I relate to Pinky a lot. There's also that. And Rarity Investigates, while it did have some, character interactions, was mostly, in terms of character interactions, it was mostly just, Rainbow Dash griping at Rarity and Rarity, doing her thing. I found I enjoyed that episode more just for seeing Rarity do her thing, which I thought was really cool. And, everyone having a happy ending. So those two don't really compare to me.
That's completely fair. That's really cool. And yeah, I mean, Rarity was pure Rarity in this episode in all the best ways and some of the worst. But it was very, very good. Very Rarity.
All right. So that was a great, excellent discussion. Great job, people. Anyone have anything conclusive to say on this episode?
One tiny thing. I love how it followed on exactly from the last episode, almost like they were made to be played back to back, how she came back into the boutique that she set up from the last episode. I thought that was really cool.
That was wonderful. And the other thing I'd like to say is this the only episode we've had that had themed exit music to the show? That's fabulous.
There have been a lot of those.
I know there's been a couple, except I know the one after this had one as well. But I still felt like that was a fairly new thing.
It was very new, I have to agree. Of the other episodes that have one... What?
Do we mean the theme music being the same as what it was in the episode? Because we've had that in a lot of...
It was noir music. I mean, it was nocturne, and was very good, very well suited.
Yeah, mostly just changing up the ending credits music in general, I think you mean.
And
it was so smooth.
Yeah, we kind of had that in a lot of premieres and finales, as well as Pinky Pride, as well as a recent episode, actually, that I can't remember the name of.
Neither can I, but it also happened in Crankle Doodle Donkey episode.
Then it's even more memorable because I actually remembered it this time.
Yeah, I suppose so. I need to look up these episodes. I don't remember. I always remember the credits just being the theme song.
A Friend Indeed. I remember that one. I watched that one 5 million times.
Wow.
So, this has been Heroic Review, reviewing Rarity Investigates. And we all agree that was a pretty cool episode, more or less, yeah?
Yay!
Alright, so, joining me was ABagofVicodin.
Bye.
Greg!
Long days and pleasant nights, lovely listeners.
Illya Leonov.
Stay in school, don't do drugs.
Reverb Brony.
It's 4:30 in the morning.
And I was your moderator, DeftFunk. And we had fun. I hope you enjoyed listening to us. Have a good day and all that. Have a good night, especially if it's 4 a.m. where you are. Say goodbye, everybody.
We're all out of here.
Yay! Goodbye.